Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I am on vacation still. It's been like, I think there's been 4 videos. This is the 5th one since I started my vacation. But I mean, to be fair, a couple of those were just replays. I don't expect them to do very well. I just wanted to show you guys what I was up to. I have been playing nothing but Master Duel Ranked like the last 3 days, and it's been fantastic. Like, oh my gosh. Finally, I can just sit back and play the game the way I want to without having to worry about, making deck guides or streaming or anything like that. Like, it's actually been very relaxing. I feel a lot better after just 2 days than I have in, a week. So I feel great. Anyway, so Fiendsmith just got announced for Master Duel, and let me talk about this. So ever since, like, it's been a long time since the meta really got shaken up in a significant way in Master Duel, and it feels weird to say that because every new deck seems to do well. We had Branded. Branded is still on the tier list. Then they added tier limits. Tier limits just got banned a bunch, but it's still on the tier list. Then they added Kashtira. Kashtira is still playable. They added Voiceless Voice, and Voiceless Voice does fine. They added Menadium, and no one cares. They added what was next after Voiceless Voice? Oh, they added Snake Eyes before Voiceless Voice. Snake Eyes has been a thing forever. Then they added Fire Kings after Voiceless Voice. Then they added Gimmick Puppets, which are good, and White Forest, which is good. Centurion was before Gimmick Puppets. That's also fine. They had to ban Calamity, which is unfortunate for Resonator players, but, can't ban the Crimson Dragon. Can't ban the card that's an issue because Centurion needs it to do anything, so they'll wait until they've sold the new Centurion support before they ban Crimson Dragon. Okay, oh, and TGs got added, and TGs are really, really good, but no one plays them because they're basically Centurion, but worse. Okay, now, so you might think, okay, the meta's super diverse. That you just name like 8 decks that all see play and that are all decent, so what's the problem? There's no problem, really, but I have to emphasize that Fiendsmith is like a different beast altogether. Oh, I didn't mention Yubel or Tenpai. Tenpai and Yubel are both there as well, and that's relevant to what we're going to talk about. Fiendsmith is a different kind of beast. So all the decks that I mentioned, other than Snake Eyes, have one important thing in common. That is that they have some sort of lock that prevents them from being played together. Right now, the 2 engines that see the most play, or 3 engines, there are 3 engines in the meta that see a lot of play, and those are the Snake Eyes engine for basically every fire deck, Toy Box engine for basically any deck that wants to play Dragoon and also likes light monsters. So that's going to be White Forest, it's going to be Centurion, it's going to be Dark Magician, Toy Box sees a lot of play. And then the last one is Unchained. Unchained, which sees play in Fiend decks, and at the moment, the only Fiend deck that uses it is Yubel. But, there you go. So those are the engines that see play right now. The reason an engine functions, there's 2 important things that an engine needs to work. Number 1, it needs to be efficient. You need to use like 1 or 2 cards from your hand, and you need to be able to build something relevant to multiple decks. Number 2, it needs to not lock you. If you like, Branded Fusion is amazing, and it doesn't matter how efficient it is. You can get Branded Fusion off like 8 different cards in the deck, but because Branded Fusion locks you for the whole turn, Branded is not an engine. It is a deck. You cannot play Branded in like Synchrons, for example, because you can't play around the lock. So Fiendsmith is an engine, and it's an engine that builds a very, very powerful board, and it's very, very flexible. So let's talk about what the cards are. The only card that has been confirmed as coming so far is Fiendsmith Engraver, and Fiendsmith Engraver has been confirmed to be added at 2 copies. So you will not be able to play a 3rd copy of Fiendsmith Engraver. Oh no. Fiendsmith Engraver is a level 6 monster with, it's a light fiend, and it has 1800 attack and 2400 defense. You can discard this card to add 1 Fiendsmith spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which will be your Fiendsmith's Tract. You can target one Fiendsmith equipped card you control and one monster on the field and send them to the graveyard. You're never going to do that. If this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle one other light fiend monster from your graveyard into the deck or the extra deck to special summon this card. You can only use each effective Fiendsmith Engraver once per turn. Okay, now, this is dangerous. There's a couple things that's important to note here. Number one, Fiendsmith Engraver is a really easy card to get multiple copies of out, and it also has a lot of synergy with a lot of different level 6 decks. And the reason why that's a problem is because Fiendsmith Engraver can be used to Xyz summon into Beatrice of the Eternal Abyss, Burning Abyss. And Beatrice is, she can dump literally any card from your deck. So you can trigger tier limits cards with that. You can trigger, you can put cards like Break the Destiny from your deck into the graveyard, which have really powerful grave effects. A transaction rollback is going to be thrown down. Like, there are so many ways to abuse the fact that Fiendsmith Engraver easily enables you to make a rank 6 Beatrice right away. The other thing is the fact that it special summons itself from your graveyard just by shuffling one other light fiend from your graveyard into your deck or your extra deck is really good because all the Fiendsmith cards are light fiends. So you might think, well, this would only see play in a light fiend deck. No, because you can make Moon of the Closed Heaven, which is a Link 2 light fiend monster to start your combo. So Fiendsmith is very similar to Orchist. When Orchist was seeing play, you used to hear the phrase, any 2 monsters is full Orchist combo, because you could use any 2 monsters to make your Nightmare Phoenix, and then Nightmare Phoenix would link into Nightmare Mermaid, and you could start a full Orchist combo. That got banned out. It's back now, but it got banned out. Same thing. Fiendsmith Engraver means any 2 monsters is full Fiendsmith combo. The difference is, Fiendsmith Desirae is much worse for you than Dingirsu Orchist of the Evening Star, for the opponent. So let's look at the rest of the cards. So with Fiendsmith Engraver, you would draw your Fiendsmith's Tract. Fiendsmith's Tract is a spell card that is currently limited to 1 in the OCG, along with Fiendsmith Engraver. Add 1 light fiend monster from your deck to your hand, then discard 1 card. You can banish this card from your graveyard to fusion summon 1 Fiendsmith fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as material. You can only use each effective Fiendsmith's Tract once per turn. So, it lets you fusion summon, but only a Fiendsmith monster, using cards from your hand or your field, which is pretty nice. But primarily what you're going to do with it is you add a light fiend monster from your deck to your hand, then you discard a card. So if you open your Fiendsmith Engraver, you could just discard it to add Tract to your hand. If you open Tract, you would play Tract and add Engraver, and then start your combo there. If you discarded Engraver to add Tract, you could play Tract to add Fabled Lurrie to your hand. Fabled Lurrie is a light fiend monster. It's level 1, and it says if this card is discarded to the graveyard, special summon it. So that is a mandatory effect. It will immediately activate. It doesn't miss timing, so you will be able to summon your Fabled Lurrie as a free link material. Excellent. So that's part of how Fiendsmith works. It just gives you a free body on the board while also setting up your graveyard. Now, with your level 1 monster, or with if you summon Fiendsmith Engraver from the graveyard, you are going to link into Fiendsmith's Reqiuem. You can also, Fiendsmith's Reqiuem requires 1 light fiend monster. You can also use Moon of the Closed Heaven. Moon of the Closed Heaven requires 2 effect monsters. So yeah, any 2 effect monsters, and you can link into Moon of the Closed Heaven, which can then give you your Fiendsmith Engraver. Or sorry, Fiendsmith Reqiuem. Fiendsmith's Reqiuem is a light level 1. Or sorry, link 1. You can only special summon Reqiuem once per turn. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute this card to special summon 1 Fiendsmith monster from your hand or deck. You might say, why is this a quick effect? You're going to immediately use it. The reason it's a quick effect, and it tributes, is so that your opponent can't imperm or effect veiler it. So you could still get ashed, but you could have gotten ashed when you played Fiendsmith's Tract. So we're already past that point. Reqiuem is effect veiler and imperm proof, which is disgusting. It doesn't need to be that, but it is. You can tribute this card special summon 1 Fiendsmith monster from your hand or deck, which will be the level 4. You can target 1 non-link light fiend monster you control, equip this card from your field or your graveyard to that monster as an equipped spell that gives it 600 attack points. You can only use this effect once per turn. Awesome. So the equips will come up later. Now, from your Fiendsmiths Requiem, you're going to special summon your Lacrima the Crimson Tears. This is a light level 4 Fiend monster. This card is always treated as a Fiendsmith card. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send one Fiendsmith card from your deck to the graveyard, except Lacrima the Crimson Tears, which will be your second copy of Engraver. If you don't have Engraver yet, like if you made 2 Link monsters if you use 2 monsters to make Moon and then you linked into Engraver or into Requiem and then special summon Lacrima, this would be your first Engraver. If you started with Engraver and used it to get Tract, then this is how you get Engraver in the graveyard. Or sorry, you would put a second Engraver in the graveyard. Anyway, you want as many Engravers in the graveyard as possible. During your opponent's turn, if this card is in your graveyard, as a quick effect, you can target one Fiendsmith Link monster in your graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, special summon that monster. So this card allows you to bring back your Requiem so that you can immediately tribute it to special summon a Lacrima from your deck, so that you can then mill another card from your deck. So this is a self-looping engine to give you infinite resources for no reason. It doesn't need to do that, but it does, and that's part of the reason why Fiendsmith is such a big deal. So, just remember that this card loops. We'll get back to the full combo in a minute. It's really hard for me to, like, showcase this without a deck in front of me. I've played Fiendsmith. I've submitted a Fiendsmith hero deck. I'll put that in the description. If you guys haven't seen me play Fiendsmith, watch the video. It's crazy, but regardless. And then, okay, so you Lacrima, you mill your Engraver, then you use Engraver and you bounce the card that you bounce your Moon of the Closed Heaven to special summon Engraver from your graveyard. And now you can link these 2 monsters together into Fiendsmith Sequence. Fiendsmith Sequence is a Link 2 that requires 2 monsters, including a Light Fiend monster. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one Fiend fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your graveyard into the deck. You can target one light, non-link Fiend monster you control, equip this card from your field or graveyard to that monster as an equipped spell with the following effect. Your opponent cannot target the equipped card with card effects. You can only use each effect of Fiendsmith Sequence once per turn. Okay, so in your graveyard, you currently have Requiem, Engraver, and Lacrima. So you have 3 light Fiends in your graveyard at a minimum when you make Fiendsmith Sequence. Now, if you are playing a deck that has synergy with Fiendsmiths, like Fabled, which has a lot of light Fiend monsters, or Evil Heroes, which has a lot of light Fiend monsters, you will probably have other options as well, and that's useful to you. You don't necessarily want to use all of your Fiendsmith cards to fusion summon, but you do have the option, which makes this, again, it's a very neat package, and you haven't seen a lock yet. None of these cards have said that you get locked. So now we use Fiendsmith's Sequence effect. We return the Engraver, the Lacrima, and the Requiem from our graveyard to our deck. Or if we opened Tract or we opened Engraver, then we would shuffle the Lacrima and the 2 Engravers back into the deck and leave the Requiem. Okay, that lets us fusion summon our boss monster, Fiendsmith's Desirae. Fiendsmith's Desirae is a level 9 Light Fiend fusion monster that requires Fiendsmith Engraver plus 2 Light Fiend monsters. As a quick effect, you can negate the effects of a number of face-up cards on the field up to the total Link rating of Link monsters equipped to this card until the end of this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle one other Light Fiend monster from your graveyard into the deck or the extra deck, then target one card on the field and send it to the graveyard. You can only use each effect of Fiendsmith's Desirae once per turn. It has 2,800 attack points. So, if you got lucky and you opened your Engraver, and you have the full combo, as opposed to just making the Moon of the Closed Heaven, then you are able to fusion summon using 2 Engravers and the Lacrima, which means that you can now equip the Requiem from your graveyard using its own effect to your Desirae. You can also equip the Link 2 that's still on the field to your Desirae. And with these 2 cards, you can now give your Fiendsmith's Desirae. It can't be targeted and 600 attack points, so it's now at 3,400. And since it has 3 link rating worth of equip cards, you can now negate 3 cards on the field per turn. This is an Omni-Negate that also basically turns off any other card on the field. So this is, by itself, with no locks, just for 1 card, a huge buff to your deck. Now, who's going to play it? Well, they have to play... The problem with Desirae and the Fiendsmith engine is not necessarily that it locks you or that it's difficult to utilize. It's that all the other decks lock themselves. So you couldn't necessarily play this in Heroes, for example, because you couldn't use it, and you couldn't use any of these cards along with Vision Hero Ferris, because Vision Hero Ferris says you are locked into Heroes for the whole turn. You couldn't play this in... That's it. You're looking for, like, decks that lock you for the whole turn. Speedroids is another one. You can't play this with Cork Shooter. Most decks lock you after they've used a card, not before. So, for the decks that don't lock you for the whole turn, you can do the Fiendsmith combo first, assuming that you can get 2 monsters out without locking yourself to link into Moon of the Closed Heaven. And then you just have this, like, negate on the board for the rest of the turn. And this can negate, for example, Infinite Impermanence. So even if you're going first, you get protected from Infinite Impermanence in the same way that Baron de Fleur protects you from Nibiru the Primal Being. So that could be very useful. It can't protect you from anything else, because nothing else hits the field, but Infinite Impermanence does have to be actually activated in the spell and trap zone from the hand, which means it's face up, so Fiendsmith Desirae can negate it. Pretty useful. Okay, those are the cards that I'm sure were probably coming. Then there's the other cards. So the other cards that you have access to are... The most likely card to come other than those is Fiendsmith in Paradise. This is a Tract card that says, target one level 7 or higher light fiend monster you control. Send all cards on the field to the graveyard that are not that monster. So, so this card lets you, if you have Desirae and you have this card, it just sends all other cards on the field to the graveyard that are not Desirae, which is disgusting. Of course, that is more likely to be played in like a dedicated Fiendsmith deck, because it hurts you as well. But if you want to play like a Fiendsmith stun deck, or if you want to play this in like Horus and you don't necessarily care about your monsters, then you have those options. I do kind of think this will see play... like this version with the Fiendsmith in Paradise will probably see play in maybe Kashtira, because Kashtira has a very similar effect, where they play Kashtira Big Bang to banish all cards on the field that are not a Rise Heart. Kashtira monsters aren't necessarily, like, they use all their effects all at once, and then they're kind of shut off, so they don't really care too much, and leaving Desirae on the board after you've already, like, obliterated your opponent's hand, deck, extra deck, and top of their deck is, you know, it's fine. But the other thing is, if your opponent special summons a monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card to send one Fiendsmith monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Okay, remember how I told you that Lacrima loops itself? Well, it's difficult for Lacrima to loop herself if you shuffle her back into the deck with the effect of Fiendsmith Reqiuem. So, how you do this is, if you already have multiple engravers, or if you're playing like Fiends so you don't need to mill another card, you can use Lacrima's effect to mill Fiendsmith in Paradise when she's summoned, then do the full combo, and then you can banish the Fiendsmith in Paradise during your opponent's turn to send Lacrima to your graveyard, so that Lacrima can then use her effect to bring herself back, and then, or sorry, not bring herself back, she shuffles herself back to bring the Link 1 back, and then the Link 1 can summon an engraver for you, and then you just have a board. So, man, it's really hard to talk about this deck. There's so much you can do with it, and none of this, like, this doesn't lock you either. It kills everything else you control, but who cares? Okay, so, importantly, like, it sends all cards on the field to the graveyard. Wait, actually, no, I'm stupid. You can't do this with, you can't do this with Kashtira, because it sends to the graveyard, which means that a Rise Heart prevents this. So, Kashtira players, you have a counter to Fiendsmith in Paradise, so maybe your deck will get better. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I didn't prepare for this video. I apologize for being disorganized. Fiendsmith Kyrie. I don't necessarily know that this card's going to come right away. It will definitely come if we get Lacrima, probably. But I think that Lacrima and Kyrie were released together after Engraver first came out, if I'm remembering this correctly. I feel like they would just give us everything, though. Like, I mean, you could definitely sell 2 Fiendsmith packs, but why would you want to? This turn, your light fiend monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, any battle damage you take becomes halved. That's trash. No one would use that. You can banish this card from your graveyard, fusion summon one Fiendsmith fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control, and or monsters in your spell and trap zones that are equipped to a Fiendsmith monster as an equipped spell as material. You can only use this effect once per turn. Now there you go. That is a good effect. So you can, after you've already used your Desirae to negate a bunch of cards, if you have Kyrie in your graveyard, you can then fuse away your Desirae or your equipped cards to summon a different monster during your opponent's turn. And what are we going to summon in that case? What we're going to summon is Fiendsmith's Lacrima. This is a fusion of 2 light fiend monsters, so it can you can use both the equipped cards that were equipped to Desirae and then leave Desirae on the board. Level 6 light fiend monster. Your monsters your opponent controls lose 600 attack points. Also, this card is level 6, which means that you can combine it with Engraver to make Beatrice on your own. If this card is fusion summoned, you can target one light fiend monster in your graveyard or in your banishment and either add it to your hand or special summon it. So you can target your Engraver, bring it right back, then you exceed into Beatrice. This is the reason that this card is banned in the TCG. So the TCG did not limit Engraver or Tract like the OCG did. They just said, okay, Beatrice is the problem, and they banned Beatrice and they banned Lacrima for good measure. So that you couldn't just get a rank 6, which I guess is fair. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle one other light fiend monster from your graveyard into the deck or the extra deck and inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. I mean, probably wouldn't do that. Maybe you use it on non-Fiendsmith cards, but all your Fiendsmith cards want to be in your graveyard. And then the last fusion monster that you could potentially make is Fiendsmith's Rextremende. This requires a Fiendsmith fusion monster plus 1 fusion or link monster. So you would use this with your trap card, and you would combine your Desirae with the Engraver that's equipped to it. I know. Why do I keep thinking that the link one is called Engraver? The Desirae and the Reqiuem that's equipped to it. Okay. Level 9, 3000 attack, 3600 defense points. Unaffected by card effects except Fiendsmith cards while equipped with a Fiendsmith equipped spell. That's funny. That's really good. Having a Towers is just disgusting. You can only use each of the following effects of Fiendsmith's Rextremende once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you can discard 1 card to send 1 light fiend monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 other Fiendsmith card in your graveyard or in banishment and add it to your hand. So if Rextremende goes to the graveyard, if your opponent gets through everything, they manage to play through your Desirae, negating all their cards. They manage to play through you fusion summoning Rextremende. Rextremende unaffected. They finally get to beat over it with an Egyptian god or something. They beat your 3600 defense points with something. Okay. Even though you have the trap card that makes your light fiend monsters unable to be destroyed by battle. Maybe you used it. Okay. They somehow managed to get Rextremende gone. Okay. Rextremende takes the Fiendsmith Engraver in your... first of all, when she's fusion summoned, she sends Fiendsmith Engraver from your deck back to the graveyard, even though you shuffled it back. And then, if she gets sent to the graveyard, you get your Fiendsmith Engraver back into your hand, and now you can start your combo all over again. Okay, so I think you guys can kind of get a picture of the nonsense. Is that everything? No, we didn't talk about Sanct yet. Sanct and Agnumday. Okay. Alright. 2 more cards. We'll get through this. Fiendsmith's Sanct. If you control no face-up monsters, or all face-up monsters you control are light fiend monsters, special summon 1 Fiendsmith token. Also, you cannot declare attacks for the rest of the turn except with Fiendsmith monsters. There's your lock. You can't have any non-light fiend monsters on the field, and you're not able to attack for the rest of the turn. But you get a free link material. Oh no. It also works if you control no light monster. So this is another card that literally just gives you Engraver. You don't even have to just link 2. You could just play this. If a face-up Fiendsmith monster you control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can set it. Again, recursion. You don't necessarily get to use this card the turn that it gets set face down, but your opponent manages to play through your Fiendsmith cards. Your turn, okay. Engraver's in your hand. Sanct is face down. Activate Sanct. Special summon your token. Get your Reqiuem out. Let's play. So there's no, like, Fiendsmith is not only is it a very easy engine to incorporate, it never runs out of gas. It always keeps going. There's no way to make them run out of cards. And lastly, we have Fiendsmith's Agnumday. This is a card where I don't necessarily think this card will be coming in the pack. It'll probably be like when Fiendsmith gets added to the game in their secret pack, they'll probably add this card as an extra card. Link 3 requires 2 or more monsters, including a light fiend monster, and it has 1800 attack points. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can target one light, non-link fiend monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and if you do, equip this card you control to that monster as an equip spell with the following effects. The equipped monster gains attack equal to the total link rating of link monsters equipped to it times 600, and if the equipped monster attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Okay. So Agnumday is the card that you make when you, like, your opponent has managed to beat your board, they didn't manage to kill you, they pass back to you, you activate your Sanct, you get out your Reqiuem, you have your Fiendsmith Engraver in the hand, you link everything together, you summon your Agnumday. Agnumday tribute, bring back your Desirae that was destroyed. Desirae comes back. Desirae gets equipped with the Agnumday. It has 1800 attack points. It has piercing. Then you use your Engraver, or sorry, your Reqiuem and your sequence from your graveyard. Equip them both. It gets another 1800 attack points. Then another 600 attack points from the Engraver effect, or from the Reqiuem effect. So that's what, 4,200 extra attack points, and it has 2,800 normally, so it goes up to 7,000. It has 7,000 attack points and piercing, and it's untargetable, and it can negate 6 cards on the field. Cool. Your opponent loses. There you go. This is not included. This is like just 2 monsters. You know, either you opened Engraver, or you made 2 monsters into your Moon of the Closed Heaven. Ignore the fact that you're playing a deck. Maybe you're playing Yubel. Maybe you opened, like, for example, you opened your, the flower. You summon your flower, you tribute it, you special summon Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel, set your Nightmare Pain. Then you special summon from your hand the Squirmer, and the Grave Squirmer destroys your Spirit of Yubel. You special summon Yubel from your deck, Spirit of Yubel is down in your graveyard. Then you link these 2 monsters into Moon of the Closed Heaven, and then you just do full Fiendsmith combo. And then after that, you still have in your graveyard all of your Yubel cards, so you can then banish the Grave Squirmer to summon back your Spirit. You can then shuffle 2 cards back to summon back your like to special summon Phantom. You can link into, you know, your Unchained cards. Like, like you used 1 card from your hand with the Phantom and then the Grave Squirmer. So you use 2 cards from your hand to make a triple negate that's untargetable and has 3,600 attack points. And then you also played Yubel. Just so you understand. Okay. All right. Let's see this in practice. Okay, so we can only play 2 of these. Play 1 Lacrima. I have no reason to think Lacrima will be banned, so I'll just put it in there. Agnumday, sequence, Reqiuem, 3 Tracts. Do we play Sanct? In Yubel, I think we probably do. Let's, how many Sancts? We're playing it as an engine. We'll only play 1. Kyrie at 1, Paradise at 1. Okay, so this is a 9-card engine, and then we're also going to play, like, standard Yubel, so... So 1 Yubel, 1 Terran, 1, no, we're not playing Ultimate Nightmare. 1 Terran Incarnates, triple Spirit, triple Grave Squirmer, triple Lotus. I guess we'll probably cut the Super Poly version. 2 Phantoms, 2 Nightmare Pains, 2 Nightmare Thrones. And then we play Unchained still. So, Sharvara at 1. Anguish at 1. Yama, Rage, Escape. Then we play SP, so we have something to link into. Access code. And then Barudras and Cross Sheep. Why is Cross Sheep not showing up? Where's Cross Sheep? Am I spelling it wrong? Sheep. Oh, there's a hyphen. Okay. All right, and then we have that's 26. That's 26 cards. What am I missing? Oh, no, I have Nightmare Throne. What am I missing? I feel like the Yubel package is bigger than this. There's no way this is like all the cards that get played in Yubel. What am I forgetting? Now I feel silly. I played Yubel on paper. Oh, I'm missing the Sanctuary stuff. Hold on. Dark Beckoning Beasts. Dark Beckoning Beast at 2, and then Opening the Spirit Gates at 2. There we go. Samsara D. Lotus, that's what its name is. That's right. Okay. Puri Raise map? I don't think that's necessary. We're going to play Fabled Lurrie at 1 just to give us discard. And then hand traps. So triple Ash. Then Fualos. 2 Maxis. And Nibiru. Okay. There you go, chat. So we cut Called by the Grave and Nobleman and Imperm. And we get this engine instead, which is basically Imperm. So, cool. Let's... okay, so we're going to save this, and let's go test it. Okay. So, okay, so I have this... I have this set to only open 1 card. I did not mean to draw Engraver, but this works out well. Okay. We'll activate it. We grab Tract. Okay. Activate Tract. Draw Lurrie. Then we discard Lurrie. Lurrie effect. Special summon itself. Link into the Reqiuem. Reqiuem effect. Special summon the Lacrima. Lacrima effect. Pitch the second Engraver. Engraver effect. Return Lurrie. Special summon itself. Okay, and then we link 2 into the Fiendsmith sequence. Fiendsmith sequence effect. Shuffle Engraver, Lacrima, and Engraver. Sequence attach. Reqiuem attach. There you go. See how easy that was? 1 card. 1 card, literally any deck can do this. And you have a triple negate and 3,400 attack points. And here's the thing. I use this sequence's effect on the field. You don't have to do that, because it can equip itself from the graveyard just like Reqiuem can. So if I was playing Yubel, I would just use this card as a fiend to link summon my Unchained Soul, like the Unchained Lord, and then do full Unchained combo and equip this from the graveyard. So you can still use this link too as extra materials. So you have even more value. So basically, the if you make if you go the route where you make you use 2 link materials to make your moon, it pays itself because you get to use the link 2 that you make with this to make something else. And again, you're not locked. There you go. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.